Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep Academy. So this is our daily answer writing program for geography optional. So we take one question, try to understand what is expected when we write answers from geography perspective. Our approach is to develop answer writing skills as well as the content which is required for answers. So let us take one more question from population geography. Now we are moving towards next part, that is migration. And in migration these days there are questions which are more application based. So there I have a question on theory, right? Here again I have a question which is talking about theory, but then I have to apply this particular theory in Indian contexts. Now let us understand what this question is saying. So this question is asking, evaluate various theories of migration with special reference to India, right? So I have to know various theories of migration and then I have to talk about all these theories with reference to India. Now first and foremost, let us understand what we are supposed to do when we are being told to evaluate these theories. Now when I am evaluating, I will explain how these theories are applicable or relevant when it comes to India, or I will also say wherever it is not relevant or not applicable. Now let us first understand what this question is presenting us challenge, right? So what kind of challenge it is? So we are going to talk about theories. There are many theories, fine. So this is very first challenge, and whatever has been said in those theories needs to be put in Indian perspective. So if I have to put all these things in Indian perspective, I have to bring in a theory for India or for the migration trends of India. I will be explaining migration trends of India with the help of these theories. I will need to have some concrete facts and some concrete examples. If not concrete fact, but because when it comes to migration, we do not have very fine little details of migration in India, right? Or be it any part of the world. So what we know by and large, either examples or we know trends. So I should be explaining all these trends with the help of these theories, or vice versa. Explain the point of theory and then say what trend do we find when it comes to India. So that is how we are supposed to approach in this particular question. Now come to introduction. In introduction we have to say either you can define migration, or you can talk about the numbers related to migration, or you can also talk about changing patterns of migration. So there are three things which can be used when it comes to start this question. So what I will choose, I'll definitely not choose to define migration. That's a very basic thing and there is absolutely no need to define what migration is. So I'll be refraining from this particular part. Then I can talk about number of migrations, numbers related to migrations, what kind of migration is taking place in India, from which particular part. So that will be about the pattern. So either speak of number or speak of pattern. If I have to choose, I'll more talk about pattern, because when I talk about pattern, I'm reflecting present day context of migration in India, and somewhere it will again get highlighted with the help of theories. So that is how I am going to introduce. Now again, this is not a very perfect introduction because this is a very tricky question, very difficult question, and in that particular sense you will be barefoot of some points in introduction. So let it be that way, let it be imperfect. Don't try to have a very perfect things, because they will disturb each rest of the part of your answer. Now let us come back to evaluation. What we mean when it comes to evaluations, we have to just put things in Indian context and tell what is relevant and why it is relevant to say that. So I have taken one theory, that is Ravenstein's theory of migration. Now the challenge here is every theory has many parts in it, right? So if I talk about Ravenstein's theory, there are multiple statements given by Ravenstein. Then I'll further move to the theory presented by Lee's model of migration, and again in Lee's model of migration there are multiple things which are being said. Now what makes this particular answer difficult to pick each and every single statement of their theory and talk about the relevance of that particular. So here I am talking about let's say short distance migration. Whenever we talk about migration, short distance migration is more than the long distance migration. Other than that, if I talk about long distance migration, if and when long distance migration happens, it will be to a center of a higher economic activity. So these kind of there are like 8-9 statements given by Ravenstein, and then if you try to put all these 8-9 statements one after another, you'll just be talking about only one theory. So I will be very picky, I'll be very choosy. So out of every theory, I will pick 1 or 2 statements or 1 or 3 themes which are very dominant when it comes to India. And this is your exam hall smartness. So nobody is going to tell you what kind of smartness is going to be required in the exam hall. So be prepared, right? And whenever you are supposed to make choices, make best of the choices. So if I talk about Ravenstein's theory, I'll say what is observable in India on a larger scale. So when it comes to short distance migration is more, right? So yes, definitely in India short distance migration is more, because what we find that rural to rural migration is far more than that of rural to urban migration. Also, when it comes to migration or short distance migration, Ravenstein says that male are not going to migrate more. It is the female who are going to migrate more. And when it comes to rural migration in India, we find that the number of female migrating is more than that of male migrating. Fine. So that is how I am going to explain every point of the theory. Then I go forward to long distance migration, to urban areas or urban centers or economic activity, centers of economic activity. So then I'll talk about, let us say ki UP or Bihar is having flows of migration to south of India or to the west of India, and typically these are urban centers. This migration is taking place to Mumbai, this migration is taking place to Chennai, so on and so forth. So that is how I am explaining each and every single part. And again, you need to be very careful, because you might end up writing whole of the theory which is not required here. You are not supposed to write theories. Then further I'll talk about next model. Let us say I am talking about Lee's model of migration. Further I am talking about Zelensky's model of migration. And in brief, I will put Indian perspective in each of these particular model, right? So once I have talked about what all is there, I am expected to draw a map. I will draw a map and I will show major centers of migration where we are receiving a lot of migration. At the same time, I'll also show what migration flows are there. So if I am talking about the map of India, I'll first and foremost show ki this is the western part of India which is receiving a lot of migration, and then there I also have southern part of India which is experiencing migration. Then I'll draw flows of migration. Let us say from UP and from Bihar, I have a lot of migration taking place in the western parts of India, but at the same time I have some migration in the southern part of India as well from UP and Bihar. Some migration is taking place to Delhi as well. So these are the flows I am going to show. Again, I have some migration from Odisha and Jharkhand to the western part of country, right? So these kind of flows needs to be shown here. There is some migration in the northeast as well. So that is how your map needs to be presented, because this particular map is going to show a lot of information which you may or may not be able to present in the answer. So that was about the migration map. And lastly, when it comes to conclusion, I'll be concluding with the socio-spatial economic implications of migration. Talk about some of the implications, be it any implication, mostly talk about positive implications, talk about economics, how economics tend to change. All these things shall be written maybe for 15 or 20 marks, and it is again, I'll be reiterating it. It is a challenge, but you have to be picky when it comes to writing this particular answer. So see you once again in next question. Thank you very much.